Papa Jeff's America program is made possible by contributions from listeners like you. Thank you. If you'd like to buy Papa Jeff a cup of coffee, visit us on the web at coffee.papajeffusa.com, because you know how much Papa Jeff loves his coffee. Papa Jeff's America, the talk radio podcast, continuing the conversation, one podcast at a time. Radio time from Houston, Texas, broadcasting around the country and around the world. Welcome to the Papa Jeff's America program. We're the talk radio podcast that discusses the stuff and things that you want to talk about. The talk radio podcast continuing the conversation, one podcast at a time. Inspiring guests, insightful commentary, and what would a day be without Papa Jeff's classic old guy humor, right? So, here's the guy that has trouble seeing the big E on the eye chart. The guy that some would say has a unique sense of humor, and the guy that definitely has a face for radio. Here's Mr. Here We Go himself, PG the OG, Papa Jeff. Welcome to Papa Jeff's America. The Talk Radio Podcast, continuing the conversation, one podcast at a time. I'm Papa Jeff, and this is Papa Jeff's America. Today we've got another great episode for you. We've got Eric and Gil, the hosts of the Q Lounge podcast. Their podcast discusses news, stories, and life situations as they relate to the LGBTQIAPK+ experience. Eric and Gil say they created the Q Lounge as a platform to share their experiences and stories while also providing a safe space for others to share their experiences. Personally, I think that's exceptional. There has been, especially recently, so many hate crimes against people that don't have the same exact beliefs or practices or politics, whatever, as others do. That's just stupid. I think we should be taking care of each other, not killing each other. What do you care what others do? Now, both of these guys have impressive resumes behind them as well. Eric is a doctor of East Asian medicine and acupuncture, and if that wasn't enough, he's an avid animal lover and a dog groomer. He's a yogi and a former dancer. Gil was born in the San Joaquin Valley and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area, both of those, of course, in the great state of California. He's an avid sports fan, a traveler, and here's my favorite part, he's a blue-blooded liberal. Oh, yeah. Eric and Gil are going to join us in just a few minutes, and I know you're going to enjoy the conversation. The Papa Jeff's America program, the talk radio podcast, continuing the conversation, one podcast at a time. It is a partly cloudy 63 degrees at the Talk OG studios in H-Town, Space City, Houston, Texas. We are the city with no limits. We are Houston strong. Coming up for us after the break, Eric and Gil from the Q Lounge podcast. Next. The Papa Jeff's America program is on the air. Anytime, any device. PapaJeffUSA.com. Our guests today are Eric Salazar and Gil Saavedra. They are the hosts of the Q Lounge podcast. They are here with us. Hey, guys, welcome. Thanks for making the time to come on. We're excited that you're here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Awesome.
So these guys, they do a podcast called the Q Lounge, and it's listed on their website that they are focusing on issues and situations of life as they pertain to the LGBTQIA+ experience. And guys, I have what I think is an idea of what that means, because I have a daughter that is openly lesbian, and on occasion professes to be asexual, and I don't quite know how that works where you are or you aren't, but okay. But I am so proud of her. I told you off air that she just got accepted to the University of Houston and is on a path for pre-law in gender studies. And so I think I have a little bit of an idea, but tell me about what your podcast, tell me what you guys do. Tell me what you guys talk about.
I guess initially we'll talk about kind of how it came to be. Probably like a couple of years ago, I had talked to Gil about wanting to do a panel type show, kind of like The View or The Talk, but dealing with LGBTQIA plus issues, because I didn't feel like there was enough of that around, and things that are going on in different countries and things that go on here in the United States. And so we had kind of talked about it, and then just life happens and you get away from those ideas. And then when the pandemic hit and we were both furloughed and I had to close my acupuncture clinic and all that other stuff, I was just kind of diving into other projects, and I revisited that and I was like, oh, we should do a podcast. So I contacted Gil and we discussed it, and we're like, yeah, because it's not going to be quite as intense as trying to get a show produced and all that other stuff. So we just really wanted to discuss life through the LGBTQ lens, because we don't feel like there's enough of that in our society, and that people still just think heteronormativity is still the default. And we wanted to discuss how things affect us through that lens. And then it kind of morphed into having guests on, because we realized that our stories didn't necessarily match other people's stories. Like, there's certain common grounds that happen as far as like coming out and constantly having to come out and all of that, and self-acceptance. But other people have completely different stories. Some people had horrible experiences with coming out. Other people had amazing experiences with coming out. Some people have addiction problems. Some people have had issues with other things in life. So we decided to create the platform to have other people come in and tell their stories, because you may not be able to identify completely with my story, but you might be able to identify with parts of this person's story and parts of that person's story, and then kind of know that you're just not alone. So we wanted to really build a community and give a platform for people to use their voice, so they can find their voice and they can use their voice.
I think that's great, using your platform to give people a voice so that they can feel better and more confident in who they are. And what's wrong with that? That is, I think that's great. That's, I was joking around with you guys off air that, that's one of the sayings that I use is, well, that's applying the common sense rule. Why would you want to do that? Or in my old guy humor, I use, well, that would be applying the common sense rule, or why would we want to do that? Or that makes too much sense. What, I don't get, being older, I don't understand our society. And in a way I do, and in a way I don't. Because I come from a time when, I'm a baby boomer. I'm one of the last years of the baby boomers, and I was raised in a Republican house where daddy was a Republican and granddaddy was a Republican and great granddaddy was a Republican. Okay. But you know what? I made up my own mind and what was going on and stuff like that. And why can't people be who they want to be, or who they, and it's sometimes it's not, I don't know that it's necessary. That's a correct term. Who they want to be who they are. You are who you are. It just, but again, that makes too much sense.
Exactly.
My daughter, the one that's going to be going to college, greeted me with a new term this morning.
Yes.
And she, Monica and I were downstairs having coffee, and she says, "Have y'all heard the new term?" And what? My daughter's from Nevada, but she's become the honorary Texan. Have y'all okay, that's a real word here, believe me. Have y'all heard the new term? And what's that, honey? Super straight. What? Yeah, there's a group of people called super straights. Have you guys heard that?
I have not. Eric, you're a little bit more hip.
I'm the older of the two, and I'm sadly more hip. I've heard it. I will honestly say I haven't paid much attention to it, but I have heard it.
I think it's just she was thinking that it's, what did she call it? Heteronormal or something like, it's basically people that are hetero that believe that hetero people should be with hetero people. And so you're not only straight, you're super straight.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay, that's fine. If that's you, then you be you. And if that's not you, then that's fine too. I told you, Gil, I don't know if you were on at the time, but I was telling Eric that on International Coming Out Day, we posted the pride flags on all of our social media.
Oh, yes.
And I got feedback from one of my churchy friends that said, exactly when was it that you turned your back on the Lord Jesus Christ? What? And she was serious and has since, unfriended me and, passed around a bunch of stuff. And I mean, I wasn't raised in the church. I worked for a church for a while and, but turned my back. What? And I just am one of those that believe that you should be who you are. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think if you think people are wrong because they are who they are, I think you're the one that has the problem, not them. But that makes me the one with the problem. But I haven't turned my back on anybody.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wasn't raised very religious. I was raised Catholic until I was about 5 or 6, and then my mom had some issues with the Catholic Church. And so I was kind of just given range to believe how I wanted and to study whatever. But I did go to a Christian school for high school. And we had chapel every day? Like three days a week we had chapel, and we had prayer before every single meeting and all of that. And we had to study the Bible and study God, and that was part of our curriculum. And being in that environment was really eye-opening for me. The hypocrisy was just intense. So that kind of helped shape me and my beliefs. I'm agnostic. I don't have anything per se against spirituality or religion. I think if it works for you, it's awesome and it's great, and definitely do that. It's right now not for me. It may be in 10 years or maybe tomorrow I'll decide that it is for me. And then I can explore that at that time. But I know, like in our podcast, sometimes I come off a little harsh with my opinions on religion. I really don't necessarily mean to. Like I said just a second ago, if it works for you, I think that's awesome. And I think it's great. And you should definitely have your relationship with God or Allah or whoever your spiritual divinity is. And that's great. I don't discard spirituality. I think there could be a divine being. I'm not going to say there's not. I'm open to it. But I don't think the confines of like an actual religion is necessarily the vehicle in which I need to drive to accomplish that relationship. If I do want to explore that, I will do that on my own time and in my own way. So
I agree. I absolutely. Gil, you
I'm with you with that, because I mean, I grew up Catholic as well, and I don't think people understand the devoutness of Catholicism within the Filipino community, but it's very big. So I grew up with it up until I really came out, and with my mom also was Catholic up until I came out, and as she cited, obviously it was child or religion. She chose child. So I was very thankful for that. So it wasn't a very judgy thing about it. But being gay in the Filipino culture is not as bad as being a vegan. From a food standpoint, like, I'll be very honest. See, a vegan, oh, God forbid.
Scale, okay.
It's a different, but gay is like, oh, okay. It's a completely different thing.
He's not a vegan, though, is
right?
he? Oh, no. Oh, honey, I feel so sorry for you.
Right. So, I remember a lot of the upbringing around that, and, some of my own personal fear being struck down from a lightning bolt from God.
Right.
But, I came to my own personal terms and agreements with him to the best that I can. But to me, it's especially with religion, just kind of mind your business. And I guess that's something that I'm used to. It's just, or especially from my father's side of the family, just mind your business. If it doesn't affect you, then why worry? And that's kind of the way I was also split on the other side.
Stay in your own yard, stay in your own side of the street, share with people that want to know. Don't criticize other people, I mean, treat others the way that you would want to be treated, or however that goes. But again, that's applying the common sense rule.
Exactly.
And why would you want to do that? But it's a choice.
Yeah.
I try to live my life by the golden rule of do unto others as you would want them to do to you. So I try to live with kindness. I know I don't always succeed, but
it's hard.
It's hard sometimes.
Yeah. But I think that's a great way to look at things. And I know how I want to be treated in a situation. So why am I going to treat someone in a way that I would not want to be treated in any given situation?
Yeah.
Yep, I completely agree. And people are stupid. And they are because I've been there, people are stupid because they want to be. They don't want to educate themselves. They don't want to open up to new horizons, new ideas, nope. It was this way because it was this way. And that's not picking on Texas, but people are that way. Yeah. One of the guests that I interviewed this last weekend, he says, when you move to Texas, if you don't have guns with you, do they issue them at the border when you get there? Yes, they do. No. Everybody must have at least two. No.
Right.
You're not coming to take my guns. No, you're not. Nobody wants your damn guns. Yeah. Stop it. Oh, we just came out of this freeze, a couple of weeks ago, and no power for, we were very fortunate here with what happened, but the water pressure was down. And from what I understand, there's still people in Texas that don't have clean water, and it's terrible because and of course our great governor is, oh, but the problem is no. The problem is you.
Yeah.
The problem is this ERCOT thing, energy reliability. Okay, well, there's an oxymoron, energy reliability. No. So anyway, but it's a choice. Yeah, it was a choice that you should have winterized the system here, and we wouldn't have had this problem. But it's a choice. No.
Well, we're very glad that you guys were okay. I know we had kind of reached out to you just to make sure that everything was up and up for you guys. But yeah, I think it's completely devastating what Texas went through and the Houston area went through. And I mean, just a couple of years ago, they got hit by Harvey as well. So it's just a lot.
The occasional rain event.
Yes.
Yes. It rains here every once in a while. Yeah, it sure does.
And when it does.
And that was before we got here. But yeah, that and that meant so much for you guys to reach out. And thank you for that. Monica noted that as well. And I told my daughter that it was her name is Sydney, and same thing. I said Eric and Gil, and Sydney says, "Who's Eric and Gil?" And I said, "The guys that do the Q Lounge podcast." Oh, super cool. When are you interviewing them? Well, as soon as we get some power back, and as soon as we get it. So I think a lot of, but thank you, both of you guys, for reaching out and for being understanding to reschedule, not only for that, but because we had our air conditioning problems, and now everything is back to normal, and as normal as it gets here in Texas. And
I can't imagine being in Houston with no air conditioner.
Oh God, the humidity alone.
Yes, it's and there are days when I wish I was back in the snow, but I think everything happens for a reason, and we're here because we're supposed to be here, and we're doing what we're doing, and we're talking to you, and that's because if we weren't here, we might not be talking to you. So and Sydney may not be going to college where she's, going to be going to college. And, my other daughter may not be dating. Yes, the young Southern gentleman. Yes, that yeah, they went down to the creek and caught fish the other day. Yeah, okay, that's good. Catching fish for me is going to Red Lobster. That's about yeah. It's like, let's go camping. Okay, which Marriott are we going to?
Right.
I'm all for the glamp.
Yes.
I know. It's like us, we do glamping in Marin County. I mean, that's not glamping.
No. I think the problem is that a lot of or part of our problem, of course, is political, because a lot of our politicians are non-progressive, mostly old white guys.
Yes.
They don't want things to change. They're making money, and they don't want things to change. Now we've got our Bernies, and on the ladies' side, we've got our AOCs and our Ayanna Presleys and Ilhan Omar and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a lot of certainly a lot more of the openly gay gentlemen and ladies that are going into office, and I think that's great. And of course, my Christian friends are thinking the world is coming to an end. Of course, it's always been the last days. You guys with a religious upbringing, it's been the last days since it's been the last days. It just has been. And a perfect, I mean, you talk about the Q people moving the goalpost. That's what the last days has been since the beginning, is let's just move the goalpost. No, it's ending on pick a day. Okay, well, it hasn't. And is it going to? It might. I don't know. I'm not the world renowned, that it's going to happen. But, I have a good friend of mine who's a professor of religious studies. He teaches at one of the colleges in Reno. He's been on the show, and he argued the fact that we are not a Christian nation. We're not. We were not founded on that. It didn't come out that way. And he can back it up. And boy, did I get feedback on that one too, and we weren't. The founders were actually deists, but that's a whole different show. But it's not a choice. It's not. And we need to be accepting. And what's the answer? I like to answer my own questions too, but part of the answer is you guys doing what you're doing and having a platform for people to share. And because the more people can talk about a situation, the better things get. What do you guys think?
I'm the same way. I feel like there has to be more dialogue instead of just, this is the way, with absolutely no reason of why. Yeah. Why is it that way? At least that's just from my perspective with it. We're just used to being spoon-fed the information or the answer. People don't want to do that thought or question. God forbid, question anything.
We can't ask that.
No.
Someone won't like us if we ask that. Don't upset the apple cart, they used to say. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think there needs to be a dialogue. I think there needs to be discussion. I also think that there needs to be education, and it needs to be a full, well-rounded education. People hopefully will seek routes to educate themselves if they have not been educated in certain topics. I mean, I have to look up things all the time because I'm like, oh, I didn't know that happened, or I forgot that happened, and let me go back and reread things. And I still learn every day, as I think most people are. But I think it's something that you need to educate yourself on certain topics before you're going to actually get into the discussion of them. But also be open to, I shouldn't say discussion, the debate. But if you're going to just have a discussion, I think that's completely fine. Get different points of view, see different people's perspectives of how how people grew up and their experiences, because like we were talking just a little bit earlier, my experience isn't going to be the same as your experience, but we may have commonalities within our experiences. I was at a store, this happened a couple of years ago when we could still travel, and I was out of state with a friend of mine, and we were going into all these like really high-end stores like Dior and all that other stuff, and I was like, oh wow, like everyone is super nice to me. Like that's just so unusual. And my friend was telling me like, oh no, you're tripping. Like they're nice to everybody. I'm like, no, like I'm used to them literally following me around the store and asking me like, can I help you? Can I help you? Have you found everything? Oh, well, that's not on sale. Can I help you? Can I help you? And I'm like, whoa, like the first time or two, fine, sure. But after a while, I'm like, I can afford this, or I'm just looking. Like, you don't have to. I have nothing to put in my pockets. And yeah, it's because it was we have different experiences. This was my experience with it. And that person has never had that experience because skin color. And so you need to have that discussion so that people are like, okay, well, I understand where you're coming from now. And I've never had that happen to me, but it does happen. And so.
And I was going to say, just even the skin color, like for you and I are both Hispanic as well. I was, the way people sometimes speak, like when I was in Atlanta, were speaking to me a little bit slower than normal and really enunciating as if English is not my first language. I'm born here. That was my first language. My dad's side of the family, as they say, the border crossed them because they've been in the state of New Mexico since the 1600s. A lot of New Mexican families have been. So English is our first language in a lot of ways. Yeah. And I always I was just laughing to myself because my mother and I were in Atlanta, and just every single place we were going to, speaking to us as if we don't understand a lick of English. It was just very fascinating with that.
Yeah. And to kind of piggyback off of that a little bit, I don't know if I think you've had this experience, Gil, too, because I am Hispanic or Latino, and I don't speak Spanish, and so people are always like, "You don't speak Spanish? Like, how can you not speak Spanish?"
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Well, where I grew up, you didn't speak Spanish. So, like, when my parents grew up, they weren't taught Spanish, because if you spoke Spanish and you were taught Spanish, it meant you were poor, and it meant you were below. So their parents wanted them to be seen as equal or as equal as possible. So they didn't teach them Spanish. So then it just trickles down to not learning Spanish. So yeah,
that was my father's side of the family. Some of them know how to speak it, but because they were taught later in life, but none of them grew up learning or speaking or writing or any of that at all. So that's why we don't, now it would benefit us, but not at the time.
And I wish, looking back, that growing up in Los Angeles, I was probably one of the few that I didn't take a foreign language class in high school. And I wish now that I had, not so much maybe being in Texas, although there is a lot of the large Hispanic community here, but just so that I would have, just so that I knew it, so that I could communicate better, so that I could communicate with more people. And if I had to do one thing different, not that I couldn't do it now, although it would be probably much more difficult, but I wish I had done that. And of course, just Papa Geoff kind of has his own language anyway. If you ask my daughters, he his classic old guy humor. I've got some lines, that they were. Oh, Dad's just being Dad. He just.
I appreciate that type of humor. Actually,
yeah, find it. Thank you. That's that's back when music was music and humor was humor. What's coming up new for the Q Lounge podcast, guys? What's coming up in the future?
Let's see. Well, we just finished doing a whole slew of interviews.
Yes, we did.
So we'll be we're releasing weekly. When we first started, we were doing twice a month, or that was the original plan. I think we ended up getting sidetracked and releasing a little bit more than we intended to, but whatever. So we just did a whole bunch of interviews. So we'll have a lot of interviews coming out for this season. We're going to do some tea time, what we're calling tea time, where we're going to actually have a panel of previous guests, and we're going to just ask rapid 10 to 20 questions and get answers and different perspectives from different experiences in life, whether it be what did you eat for breakfast today to something sexual or whatever else as it pertains to us. And then we're hoping to have a pretty big month for June for Pride Month. And
cool.
Yeah. What else are we planning on, Gil?
I was gonna say that's pretty much it. That we're definitely
Like,
gearing
that's
for
not enough,
Pride
right?
Month. I know, right? Yeah, Pride Month. We're gonna do our big thing and hopefully kind of celebrate. Since last year it kind of got postponed
Yes.
due
Yeah.
to the pandemic. Especially here, it was supposed to be the San Francisco's 50th anniversary for Pride, for the Pride Parade. And that got canceled. So we're doing the 50+1, and hopefully we'll have a digital or something we can link it to our to the Q Lounge as it's happening.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Definitely looking forward to that. I have heard it from my daughter that depending on where we are
Mhm.
in the pandemic thing, I'm scheduled to get my first shot this Friday, so I'm excited.
Oh,
Congratulations.
congrats!
It's a big thing, and I'm not hiding from people, but I'm also still, being a little bit older and having a few underlying conditions. I'm still being
Mhm.
careful,
Yes.
and having a medical background, I'm just being careful, and
Mhm.
so that's a good thing that's coming up. But my daughter has said that, hey, if we're in a good position, I want to go to whatever Pride is going to happen here in Houston. Okay, we're
Awesome.
gonna do that. So she's definitely with the program. I'm so proud of her. I got to tell you, and so
That's amazing. Sounds
Yeah,
like she's
that
doing
is.
wonderful work.
she is
So,
she is so ahead of her time. That's for sure. So, guys, how do our audience follow you, find you, your website, your social media? How do they get in contact with you guys?
So you can follow us at the QLoungePodcast.com. That's our website.
It's an awesome website too, guys. You guys got some really cool merch on there.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're hoping to expand that a little bit. I've been kind of slacking on that end, but
It's okay.
yeah, we're hoping to get that going.
I'll admit, the first time I looked, I said, "Does it really say that?" Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I'm the progressive old guy,
Yeah. And we're on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram at the Q Lounge. And so it's at the Q Lounge for all of those. And I try to update that as much as possible. I have a lot of other projects going on, so sometimes I'm not as always on it as I should be, but I try.
I was gonna say the Instagram probably is the most up to date.
Yeah.
I know you just posted there was a video that just came out, a soundbite that I
Mhm.
saw this morning and listened to. So that was, yeah, guys, you need to check out their website. It's awesome, and there's a lot of cool stuff on there, and you can link to all of their other stuff, all of their past episodes, and they've got some really cool stuff on there too. So you definitely need to check out their social media, and hopefully these guys will graciously volunteer to come on with us again. We're going to keep them posted on what's going on with Sid's travels and college stuff, and
Yes.
Yes.
it's a good thing. Eric Salazar, Gil Saavedra, thanks so much, guys, for coming on. We love you,
Thank you.
and
Thank
be
you so
safe,
much.
be well. Thanks so much for helping us out. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.
This is the Papa Jeff's America program. We are the Talk Radio Podcast, continuing the conversation one podcast at a time. Thanks for joining us today for the Papa Jeff's America program. Check out more episodes of the Talk Radio Podcast at papajeffusa.com. You can subscribe through the link on our website or wherever you get your podcasts. We're on all the major platforms. papajeffusa.com is your home for everything Papa Jeff. Anytime, any device. And while you're there, you can check out more episodes of the broadcast, check out the OG Corner, get in contact with us, and you can easily link to all of our social media. We do want to hear from you. Your thoughts, comments, and suggestions are what make this program happen. So send us an email on our website, papajeffusa.com. Please help us to get the word out and share our broadcast on all of your social media, because sharing is caring. And speaking of caring, if you'd like to help us coffee up here at the Talk Radio Podcast, give a click to the Buy Me a Coffee link. You know how much Papa Jeff loves his coffee. Hey guys, remember to wear a mask if you're going out. Practice that social distancing. Wash your hands frequently. Get the vaccine when it's your turn. And let's all do the right thing and take care of each other. Remember, disagree doesn't mean dislike. We're all in this together. Thanks again for joining us, and bring a friend with you next time. We're looking forward to seeing you next time on the Talk Radio Podcast, continuing the conversation, one podcast at a time.